Chapter 11, Frog Forest Part 2. In the jungle, we got fun and games. Fireside's eyes were wide, and her mouth hung open as she looked around, marveling at all the green around the group. Less than a minute ago, they just looked through the portal they had found in Pinkie Pie's room in Skikoo Corner. Now they were walking through a jungle filled with bright green grass, ivy, and various other types of plants. One nearby looked like some kind of staircase or ladder. Wow, this is so lovely. While looking out to the side, Applejack nodded. Sure is, Fluttershy. And considering some of the other places we've seen, it's nice to have a little quiet. Sonic was carrying Skoogloo Scouter, since it would have a hard time getting through some of the undergrowth. So walking alongside Twilight, she scanned a few pages of her fighting book. Said, it is pretty nice. Too bad it's not going to last long. Rarity asked, what the fuck do you mean, Sonic? While this place isn't exactly growing on me, I don't see how things could, as you might say, turn ugly. Sonic shrugged, well, you never know, Rarity. Still, this place definitely has a familiar scent of adventure, so I'm willing to bet there's some fun waiting for us out there somewhere. Sleepbell perked up at this, asking, fun? What kind of fun? Is there something really interesting in this jungle? She turned to her fellow crusader and said, Skoogloo, maybe we can get our key marks here. There's a ton of things we can do here. Before anybody could speak up, Skoogloo surprised them all by turning to Sleepbell and saying, Sleepbell, this is not a good time to be thinking about your cutie mark. My Philly looked at her incredulously. It looked like she wanted to say something, but Skoogloo went on. First of all, Applebloom isn't with us. We'd be excluding her if we tried to find our special talents are right now. And second, what's happened to Ponyville is way more important than our cutie marks. She looked up at Rainbow Dash and asked, right, Rainbow Dash? The side Pegasus looked back over her shoulder and nodded. Sleepbell started, but Skoogloo. Sonic held up his free hand and said, hold that thought, Sleepbell. He then lowered his hand and asked, did anyone else feel that? Everyone stopped to listen for a moment. Tails soon pointed farther ahead and said, it's coming from that direction. It sounds metallic. Probably Eggman's robots. Knuckles cracked his knuckles and said, sounds about right. I could use a little stress relief after dealing with that noxious Gilda. Forsyth meekly asked, you're not going to hurt any of these robots, are you, Knuckles? Rainbow turned to her and said, Forsyth, they're robots that work for a total jerk. Those badniks that attacked us in the city were his. Sonic interjected, once they were. Rainbow continued, then I dealt with whatever's ahead could be any friendlier. I mean, this guy unleashed a water creature trying to take advantage of its anchor, and he blew up half of the moon in Sonic's world. And that's just what we've seen or heard. I'm pretty positive he's done plenty of other stuff that's terrible. Twilight spoke tentatively. Okay, Rainbow Dash, just calm down for a second. If we keep it down, we might be able to see what these robots are without them knowing we're here. Applejack said, good idea, Twilight. Maybe we could get the drop on. Rarity asked, we're not all going to be fighting, Holly. Violence isn't exactly my thing. Knuckles glanced back at her and said, we don't know until we get a better look, but I doubt we're going to have to worry about a whole squad waiting for us. Now come on, follow me. He then led the way forward, Sonic and Tails right behind him and everyone else following behind him. The group soon found a large green log in the way. Knuckles climbed up on the side and, after looking for a moment, looked back and waved his hand in the air, telling the air he could look. They all moved to an open part of the log, moving up and looking over into the clearing behind. They see a bunch of red bipedal robots. Spike was the first to ask, what are those things? Tails answered, Eggpawns. Ever since the Arctic incident, they become Eggman's most common foot soldiers. Looking towards the back of the clearing, Fox spotted a cage behind the Eggpawns. He pointed and said, look! I think there's a frog in that cage! First I gasped, really? There is? Rainbow Dash squinted, looking at the cage carefully before turning to look at Tails and asking, you sure care about that, Tails? That cage looks way too big for a frog. Spike could probably slip in and out of the holes in that thing easily. Sonic said, no, Tails is right, Dash. I know where we are now. This is that jungle where the giant frogs live. Crane giggled. Oh, I knew those frogs. They were big, but they were so cute when he got surprised. Right, Tails? Choo-choo! Her friend Chow gave a happy nod in agreement. So I asked, how big are these frogs exactly? Sonic replied, about our size. I don't know what to eat, but don't worry. He didn't try and turn any of us into food last time. So I'm sure ponies and dragons aren't in the menu either. Elzak said, "That's good to hear." She then looked back at the kids and asked, "So, how do we get that frog out of that there cage?" Knuckles explained, "We'll set up our Eggman's robots. It'll open once they're all destroyed." He then looked at Sonic and Tails and said, "Come on, let's do this thing!" The duo nodded, and all three got over the frog. Onion and carrying and running towards the egg ponds. One of the egg ponds spotted a team as they approached and called, "Enemy sighted! Get them!" The rest of the egg ponds immediately turned their attention to the intruders and charged towards them. Tails called, "Right when you are, Knuckles!" The kid nodded, and a second layer leapt up. Sonic and Tails leapt after him, both of them going to a spin jump as they came in front of Knuckles. The kid pulled his right fist back and brought it forward, hitting Sonic with it and sending him flying to the nearest egg pond, before sending Tails to the nearest egg pond with his left fist. While Sonic stayed airborne and started using his homing attack to hit the egg ponds, Tails landed and put his twin fluffy appendices to good use, knocking the egg ponds as shields off their feet and giving Sonic and Knuckles a free shot in under a minute. Every egg pond in the clearing had been reduced to scrap metal, and the cage they set up opened it. Almost immediately, Fluttershy flew out from the log and over to the cage. She gasped as she looked down at the green frog and sighed, "Oh my goodness, I've never seen such a big frog before." As everyone else came out from behind the log, the shy Pegasus lowered herself down to the cage and spoke, "Hello there, Mr. Frog. How are you doing today?" Taking a closer look, she realized the frog seemed to be nervously looking around, as expecting the egg ponds to come back. So she climbed to the cage and wrapped her forelegs around the amphibian, softly saying, "You poor baby, you must have been so scared." Everyone was sitting back and silent, watching the frog sit quietly and relax, and Fluttershy comforted it. "Well, she really is good with animals," Tails commented after a moment of silence. Rainbow Dash grinned at him. "Yeah, what I tell you, huh?" Sonic looked over his fox buddy and said, "Hey, Tails, while Fluttershy does her thing, maybe you should see if there's anything worthwhile left of the remains of the egg ponds. I mean, considering what's going to happen and all." Tails pointed and said, "Oh, that's right!" He quickly ran over to the nearest egg pond and started digging through what was left of it. Twilight nodded at Sonic and asked, "Sonic, if you don't mind me asking, what's going to happen?" The blue hedgehog replied, "You'll see. These frogs aren't just bigger than your average frog. They've got, I guess you could call it a kind of power." Elzak asked, "What kind of power do they have?" Suddenly, a raindrop fell on her nose. Then another landed on the brim of her hat, while another landed at Twilight's mane. A second later, it suddenly started pouring. "What a darnation!" Elzak exclaimed. Rainbow asked, "Where did this rain come from? There's not even a cloud in the sky." Knuckles explained, "That's the special power the frogs in the jungle have. The ability to summon rain with their clucks." Sweet Belle looked at the side frog and asked, "So, if this rain is falling, does that mean that frog's really happy or something?" Randy whined, "Well, I'm not very happy. My hair is getting ruined." Sonic sighed and rolled his eyes. He then looked out to the side and noticed a hard sleeve sticking out of the ground. He walked over and grabbed it near the base. With a sharp tug, he broke it off and carried it back to Rarity. He held it over her, saying, "Here, Rarity. I know it's not an umbrella, but it's the best I could do." Rarity looked up at the leaf for a moment and took it in her mask, saying, "Thank you, Sonic. For one with hair so wild, you do appear to have some sentimental qualities about you." Sonic immediately put an angry expression at the unicorn's words. Sonic noticed the look the baby dragon was giving him, but decided not to comment on it. "Yeah, well, I kind of prefer my natural look," he told Rarity, running a hand back to alongside his quills. As the rain began to slow down, Rarity said, "Oh, I'm sure there's another style that would suit you perfectly. Perhaps we can find it when we get back to Ponyville. Oh, maybe a mohawk or something." Sonic shrugged. "Yeah, that's okay. I'm better at stopping bots like this." He looked back at Fluttershy. He saw she released the giant frog for the embrace she had been giving it. It soon turned and hopped away to the jungle. As it left, Fluttershy called, "Bye, Mr. Frog. Say hi to all your friends for me." She then turned around, busting a bit of her wet mane aside. She noticed her friends were wet as well. She trotted over to him. She said, "Oh, I thought it rained just now." Twilight nodded. "Yeah, the frog must have really liked you." Fluttershy smiled. "Oh, yes, he certainly did. He was so nice, too." Tails stood up and came over to the group, having settled a pair of power cores that was very better bits for the egg ponds. Sonic looked over him and asked, "Tails?" The fox replied, "I managed to get a few things on the robots before it started raining. Not that that's a big deal. I don't think I could have found any use for most of their parts anyway. Skulu asked, "So what are you gonna do with that stuff, Tails?" The fox shrugged. "I don't know yet, Skulu. I like to keep the spare parts handy in case I need them, so we'll see." Rainbow said, "Well, if you're sure your fit's looking, maybe we should get going." Randy spoke, "I must certainly agree with Rainbow Dash. The sooner we're out of the jungle, the better. And hopefully we won't see any more of those giant frogs." Tails scratched the high of his head and said, "I don't think that's going to be possible, Rarity. I mean, this is a big jungle, and the last time we passed through here, the frogs helped us make our way through the jungle." First, I flapped her wings and hovered above the ground. Pressing her front hose together, she said, "Oh, we'll be seeing more of those frogs?" Green nodded. "Yes, Miss Fluttershy. There's a lot more frogs that live in this jungle." Rarity sighed. "Oh, then I suppose keeping this leaf in order to protect my hair after all." She turned to Sonic and asked, "Sonic, could you be a deer carry for me?" Sonic noticed the look on Spike's face again and said, "I don't think that's a good idea, Rarity. I was planning on helping Knuckles and getting my hands dirty. I don't think I can guarantee I won't accidentally get something on your leaf, so you might want to ask someone else for help." He did tap the thumb in Spike's direction and added, "Someone like Spike, maybe?" Spike's expression immediately brightened somewhat at that, and he looked eager to take the lifeline he was being thrown. Randy cast her eyes to the baby dragon's direction for a moment, before looking back at Sonic and saying, "Very well then, I see the logic of your statement. In the need for a get wet, you could drop something rather unpleasant on me." Both Rainbow Dash and Applejack quietly snickered to each other at that, but Rarity ignored them, turning to Spike and saying, "And Spiky Lucky." Spike immediately dashed over to her with a smile on his face. "At your service, Rarity," he said as he came to a stop next to the white unicorn, and wrapped his claws around the base of the leaf stem, holding it over her. Rarity released her magic hold on the leaf and looked up at the moment. She then looked over at Spike and said, "Thank you, Spike. However, I did not require to see any properties of the leaf at the moment." Nodding understanding, Spike pulled the leaf away and hung it in his arms. Everybody's attention was diverted to the side when Knuckles called, "Hi! Looks like the light made a path go over here. If you're all ready now, I suggest we see where that goes." Everyone agreed and followed him up into some large plants that have seemingly grown up out of nowhere. As the group continued through the jungle, and adjusted to more Megmit's robots, the jungle itself, the members of the group found themselves having to deal with Sleebell and Skulu's arguing in the background. Sleebell was still trying to convince Skulu it would be okay for them to continue their useful crusade without Apple Bloom, while Zora's Pegasus Philly continued to disagree with her, not only because of Apple Bloom, but also because of the earlier agreements she made with Rainbow Dash about behaving and her newfound respect for Sonic and Tails. I hate to step in here, but this film is really, really out of character for Sleebell. Sleebell really loves Apple Bloom too. I don't think Sleebell would suddenly be like, "Oh, Apple Bloom might be in danger? Let's ignore her!" No, this just feels wrong somehow. Like, Sleebell is being too selfish. Eventually, Applejack couldn't take their bickering any longer, and decided to take the Phillies behind the wooden shed. As soon as they got back to Ponyville, they didn't stop arguing. Threat quickly did his trick, since both Phillies stopped arguing after getting over the shock of the Earth Pony's threat. Aside from all of this, the ponies also found out that Tails had been right. They did run into more of the giant frogs as they made their way through the jungle. Fluttershy was more than happy to get to each and know one of them as they passed by. After meeting their fourth frog, they stopped at the clearing to rest for a moment. Tails looked over at Sonic and Knuckles after they finished talking with Twilight, Applejack, and Fluttershy about the different plants growing in the jungle and asked, "Hey, you guys remember the first time we ran into these frogs?" Remembering Metal Sonic and the Little Planet. Sonic grinned. "I know I do." Knuckles nodded. "Yeah. We followed Eggman's egg feed until he managed to distract us with an Eggman robot. Close later, if we found out we weren't chasing Eggman in the first place. We were honestly chasing Metal Sonic as part of his plan to get all our data." Twilight asked, "Metal Sonic? Didn't Tails mention that name before, back at Town Hall?" Elzak nodded. "He sort of did, Twilight. He didn't mention most else, though. I'm sorry, Knuckles. Knuckles, it's so your accent." Rainbow spoke up. "Tails told me Spike and Skulu about his little Metal Sonic thing after I beat Gilda and got back to Playfield with Skulu. Said something about how it's a robot that looks like Sonic and can imitate his moves or something like that." Rarity asked, "I mean about Sonic?" Tails nodded. Yeah. When it became abundantly clear that its animal-powered robots were no match for Sonic, Eggman started building robot copies of them that were powered by an actual energy source, hoping he would be more successful stopping him. Fluttershy nervously asked, Did you say animal-powered robots? Tails replied, Yeah. Some of Eggman's robots, particularly Zuri Badniks, were powered by small animals. The animals themselves did very little to control the robots. For the most part, they served as organic batteries for his robots. Okay, Vic, I want to point out something here. You do know that this would be something that would piss Fluttershy off, right? Little animals are getting harmed. Alright, Fluttershy wouldn't be meek about this. She would be going, That monster! How could he? And she would be going off. Never forget that Fluttershy, for all her niceness, still has a little bit of a backbone when it comes to animals. Please remember this. Twilight asked, Organic batteries? Does this mean his robots were feeding out the animals? Tails answered, No, at least nothing ever appeared to be wrong with them when we freed them. Sure. Just keep telling yourself that, Tails. Of course, we do have to be careful about attacking robots so not to hurt them ourselves. They just powered the robots somehow, allowing them to move without the animals needing to do anything. Eggman did this for a long time, but after the Ark incident, he started using animals less and less, going with power sources like the power cores, until he stopped using animals altogether. Of course, people, when you say organic batteries, that means somehow they're being a power source and animals drain out. So don't try and say they weren't feeding off of them. Oh, no. Don't try and wheedle your way out of this. We know they were getting their lives drained. Don't try and pull that little PG bullcrap with me. Green put a hand on Fluttershy's shoulder. She stroked her pink mane as he whispered, Oh, those poor animals. Knuckles spoke. Yeah, it's pretty terrible what he did to them. Thankfully, I don't think he did much else to them. So why don't we get back to the initial topic and not worry about that right now? Rainbow said, Yeah, we're getting kind of coarse, aren't we, Knuckles? I mean, this Eggman guy is making me madder and madder. Obviously, but now probably isn't the time to be focusing on what he did before, and instead focus on what's going on, right? Knuckles tried. Yeah, so Rainbow. Twilight decided to get the conversation started again by asking, What's so special about this Metal Sonic? Based on what Tails said, I'm going to guess Metal Sonic was just one of his robots that Eggman built. Sonic replied, You'll be right about that, Twilight. But back when the idea was still new, Eggman experimented with several different designs for building robot versions of me. Metal Sonic is definitely the most unique robots out of all of them, in more ways than one. I mean, most of the other robots Eggman built were totally faithful to him. Metal Sonic is one of the few that rebelled against him. It's not more than once, I might add. Rainbow laughed, This guy is smart enough to build all those different machines he builds. One actually turned on? That'd be pretty funny. Elzak chuckled, Yeah, that's pretty slaying. I feel like Twilight totally messing up an easy spell. The aforementioned unicorn giggled nervously. Yeah, boy, would I feel stupid. While Rainbow and Applejack continued to laugh, Sonic noticed something that went uneasy go up in Twilight's eyes. What's with that look? Is there something bothering her? He wondered. He didn't get a chance to ponder this, though. Fluttershy meekly asked, Why wouldn't Spell Sonic turn against Eggman? Did he want to be friends with all of you instead? Tails said, Fortunately, no. It would be pretty cool, though, having a reformed Metal Sonic helping us against Eggman. And somewhere in the Archie universe, Shard sneezes. Anyway, what Knuckles mentioned earlier, that's what Metal Sonic did after putting Eggman somewhere where he wouldn't get in the way. Heard he asked, What was he trying to do again? Knuckles explained, He was trying to collect all of our data. When he became Neo Metal Sonic, in addition to getting a new appearance, he gained the ability to Psy Shift. He posed as Eggman, getting us all to fight him so he could copy all our data. since he thought knowing everything about us would make him invincible so he could rule the world. We eventually fought him in his true form. After he revealed himself, he used the power of the chaos to turn into a monster. As you can probably guess, he wasn't as perfect as he thought he was. Even though Metasonic turned on him, Eggman still rebuilt him sometime afterward. Spike asked, "So, he managed to make him loyal again?"
Tails said, "For the most part. We've seen him turn on Eggman one other time since he was put back into action. One of Eggman's more recent schemes saw him disguising himself and setting up a World Grand Prix competition under the fake name he had taken on. One of the competitors in the competition was a robot he built capable of gathering data on the other racers. He's going to use this data to prove he was the fastest in the world."
Twilight raised his eyebrow.
"You set up a fake competition just to prove he was faster than anyone else?" Tails scratched his head. "Well, that's Eggman for you. He likes to stand out any way he can. Anyway, not only did his plan fail, but it turned out Metasonic had been posing as the robot Eggman had built, passing on fake data to him while keeping the real data for himself. He then challenged Sonic to a race, but Sonic won. Metasonic ran off after he lost, but Eggman managed to get him back." Rarity said, "Goodness, all this talk of planning, posing, revealing, and reminds me of the royal wedding in Canterlot."
Knuckles asked, "Of all the things you could think of, Rarity, you think of a wedding after hearing a story like that?"
Applejack said,
"Wasn't just any wedding, Knuckles. It was a wedding between Princess Celestia's niece, Cadance, and Twilight's brother, Shining Armor."
Sonic went to Twilight and asked, "You have a brother?" Twilight answered, "Yes. My elder brother is the captain of the Royal Guard in Canterlot. Also, Princess Cadance was my full sister, Seraphir, when I was little."
Sonic whistled. "Wow, must have been some wedding."
Twilight replied, "It was, actually, especially since it had been put on hold to deal with an army of changelings." Tails asked, "What was a changeling?" Twilight said, "The best way I could describe it is a cross between an insect and a unicorn and a Pegasus pony."
Sonic joked, "An insect pegacorn? That sounds way stranger than a Griffith. Why are they called changelings?"
Scootaloo piped up, "They're called that because they got this really crazy magic that allows them to take on any pose in appearance. They can look exactly like any pony they want, right down to the key mark." Sleepbell added, "That's why my sister was thinking at the wedding. Some kind of threat had been made against Canterlot, so Twilight's brother set up a seal to protect the city. But it turns out the Queen of the Changelings was actually inside the city, posing as Princess Cadance. She was nothing like the real Cadance."
Sonic shrugged. Not surprised. Copy's usually inferior to the original, after all. Metasonic sure is.
Twilight nodded, "Yeah."
For a second, she felt like she was miles away again. When she shook her head to clear and asked,
"So aside from being able to think himself and deceive others, how else was Metasonic, as you put it, unique?"
Sonic replied, "Most of the other robots had clunky designs and weren't designed for fighting in close quarters. He tried a different approach with Metasonic. He wasn't strictly designed for close quarters fightings like a Megasonic we encountered in Sky Sanctuary, or Silver Sonic that protected the original Death Egg. He could handle himself in a fight if need be, but he was built to last, able to race me. That's actually what made him more dangerous than any of Eggman's other robot versions of me." Spike spoke up, "I can't believe that. He sure gave Tails a tough time when they were fighting on that long road thing."
Sonic looked over and raised an eyebrow. "Long road thing?" Tails said, "I'm pretty certain the place I fought, where Spike and I fought Metasonic, was the same place where you had your first race against us, Sonic."
Sonic's eyes brightened in understanding. "Oh, you're talking about Stardust Speedway. Okay, I know which long road thing you're referring to."
Tails thought to himself, "Glad Spike remembered to mention that. I just forgot to ask about that to ask Sonic."
Before anyone else could say anything,
Tails asked, "Sonic?" When the blue hedgehog went down, he spoke, "Well, Spike and I were at Stardust Speedway. It looked to be in pretty bad shape. The sky was full of red clouds and lightning. The city looked pretty desolate. It was a roasting kind of Terry. Was that really where you raced Metasonic? I mean, I know you did race him, but did you race him there too? That place looked like an Eggman kind of place. I know you were able to collect all the time stones and drive Eggman completely off a little planet."
"Oh, speaking of which, on Sonic Origins, that was the first time I had ever actually managed to collect all the time stones. Every other time I played Sonic CD, I would always manage to just go after the robot generators, or the robotizers, and just try to do a run through that. But this was the first time I had ever gotten all the time stones, and I felt so awesome about that."
Sonic thought about this, and thoughts began to arise in Spike and Pony's head.
Time Stones, Little Planet, what the heck are you talking about now? Were some of the things you were thinking. Sonic soon spoke, catching everyone's attention. Now that I think about it, yeah, I did go up against Metal Sonic in a ruined version of Stardust Speedway Tales. Thanks to that ugly statue of himself he was building, Eggman managed to find a time stone hidden there before I could get to it, so I wasn't able to travel to the past to destroy his robot machine. To get to the dark space, I had to follow into the future, which looks like the ruined future you described. I managed to get back to the present before defeating Metal Sonic and rescuing Amy, and headed straight for Eggman's base, where I recovered both the time stone from Stardust Speedway and the one he originally found that he used to spread his influence in the past. I was more focused on making sure Eggman didn't escape with any of the time stones and rescuing Amy at the time. And since Eggman's base started falling apart after I beat him, I didn't have any time to go back and check on Stardust Speedway. Maybe you saw that future because of whatever means Eggman used to recover Metal Sonic on Little Planet's return. Tails replied, maybe. I mean, Metal Sonic didn't exactly look like the original. He fought the same way, even having attack similar to what we used to fight together. Raymond Dash loudly interrupted, hey, what are you guys talking about? Sounds like complete gibberish to the rest of us. Let me explain a few things to us, or at least telling us what the hell you're going on about. Tails evilly said, sure, Rainbow. What do you guys want to know about first? So I'd ask, well, for starters, can you tell us a little about this Little Planet thing? First, I simply add, yes, what is it exactly? Sonic spoke. Simply put, it's a natural satellite that orbits our planet, kind of like the moon. But the fact that they're both satellites is where the similarity ends. Little Planet's a lot greener. There may or may not be people living on it, and we only see it for 1 month every year. I was asked, well, how in 1 month? Tails said, we're not completely sure. We know it orbits our planet, but the only reason we learned of the Little Planet's existence in the first place was because of the legend surrounding it. The legend itself states that the Little Planet appears for 1 month every year over Never Lake. We think the reason we never see it for the rest of the year has something to do with time stones, but we'll talk about those later. Spike asked, so basically you're saying for a whole month you can actually see this planet from this Never Lake place? Sonic nodded, that's right, Spike. I'm sure you need a telescope to get a good look at it from the lake, though. Unless, of course, Eggman has plans for the Little Planet, in which case he'll drag it down to our planet's atmosphere. Twilight asked incredulously, he moved the whole planet? Tails said, well, it's not a big planet, it's the Little Planet, but yeah, Eggman pulled it close down to the surface of our planet before. Twilight asked, how? You said your Little Planet orbits your world. It has to have some gravity, right? Wouldn't bringing it down to the surface of your world throw out the natural planet balance and cause disasters? Thank you, Twilight, for being scientific. However, in Sonic, sometimes physics and science has no place. Sonic answered, Eggman used a huge chain to pull it down the first time. Then he saved it the next time it appeared while he was building his new death egg around it. Thought it was pretty hard to believe it myself the first time he did it. Then he surprised me again when he ended up doing pretty much the same thing for a bunch of planets that were nowhere near where ours is. As for natural disasters, there were never any major weather changes that occur where it normally appears over Never Lake. Nothing unusual was reported when Eggman brought it down. Maybe our planet used to the Little Planets as natural appearances, or maybe it's something else about Little Planet we can't explain. Maybe we should just go and ask Ian about it. Randy asked, but why would this not the Eggman you've been talking about want to move to the Little Planet in the first place? Was it because of the time stones you mentioned? Sonic nodded, that's right, Rarity. The time stones had the power to warp through time. Only, this is no longer possible on the Little Planet. Time stones can't be taken off the planet. That's why I think they're the reason we only see the Little Planet for 1 month every year. Tails added, having this one time stone will allow whoever possesses it to travel to almost any point in time. This is how Dr. Eggman was briefly able to ruin the Little Planet, and Sonic was preventing him from taking over completely. Collecting all 7 has ruined the ground with the power to reshape its time itself. Sonic grinned secretly. Yeah, I never did find out if that's true or not, seeing as I had to get Amy out before Eggman's base could collapse right on top of us. Look, I would love to continue the rest of this chapter, but all this talk about Sonic CD has been making me want to replay it again. So, I'll be right back next week after I'm done replaying Sonic Origins for the 50th time. Bye!